Help to Buy Equity Loan, the scheme that runs from 2021 to 2023. So, is it something for you? Hi, my name's Manda Walker. I'm the mortgage coach and I believe everyone has a right to their own home. Now, the Help to Buy scheme, I just wanted to run through and break it down for you because it might be something that you're interested in, but it's only running till 2023. And I think you've got to have found your property by the end of this year, around October time. So they want you to have completed by 2023. So you need to get moving if it's something you want to do. Now, firstly, I wanted to talk about the Help to Buy ISA. You can put money in every single month and you get a bonus at the end of it if you use it to buy your first property. Now, those who've got ISAs, that's brilliant, and you can definitely use it for that. I will be doing a separate video on different ways of saving up for deposits. Right, let's get back to the scheme. Now, the scheme is literally for new builds and it's for first-time buyers. Now, a new build is a property, either a flat or a house that is only less than 2 years old. If a house that is a new build but it's been split into flats afterwards, then that is no longer considered a new build. Apologies. The other criteria is a first-time buyer. Now, what they're saying with a first-time buyer is someone that has never owned their own property. They don't currently own, they've never owned their own home or residential land, either in the UK or abroad. So that's just something to bear in mind when you state you're a first-time buyer, and they will ask you to sign a declaration. They will also look on land registry to see if you own property and do checks on you. So be honest, please. Right, the next thing is, how does it work? So the way the scheme is set up is you can put down 5% deposit, and then depending whether you're buying a property in London or outside of London, you can get 20%, up to 20%, or up to 40%. So a quick example for you is, if you are buying outside of London, then you can put down you're buying a property for 200,000, for example. Then you put down your 5% deposit, which is £10,000. You can borrow up to 20% because it's outside of London, which would be £40,000. That would be the equity loan part. And then the mortgage, that would be 75%, which is 150,000. Now, the next example is inside London. You'd still put down your 5% because the property is also worth 200,000. So you'd put down 10,000 as your 5%. But this time, instead of getting 20% equity loan, you could actually get 40% equity loan. So that is 80,000. And then instead of needing a mortgage for 150,000, you'd only need it for 110. So that is great, and then you'd only be borrowing 55% as opposed to 75% because of that extra 20%. Now, the way it works, and it's really, really good. Also, there are restrictions depending on whereabouts you want to buy. So, for instance, London, the maximum price of a property is 600. I gave you a 200 example, but the maximum price is 600. And then if, for example, you're in the northeast, that's 186,100. So there is, and I will put a link in the chat, a guide that will tell you, depending on where in the UK you are, depends on what sort of what's the maximum property price that you can have. Now, what is an equity loan? Obviously, I've explained a mortgage before, and I can do a video with an in-depth detail of how a mortgage works, the interest rates and all of that. That's not a problem. But today, because I'm talking about Help to Buy, I really wanted to talk about the equity loan element of it. Now, an equity loan is a loan from the government. Now, for the first 5 years, it is interest-free. And then in year 6, what happens is you have to pay 1.75% of the equity loan. So in the example of the property that's outside London, you are actually borrowing 40k, so you'll be paying 1.75 of the 40k. And with the example inside London, you'll be paying 1.75 of the 80,000. Now, you'll be doing that for the first year. Then in April, it will rise, and it will rise depending on inflation. Now, if inflation is zero, then, or it's increased by zero, then the interest rate will be +2. If it's increased by more than zero, then it will be more than 2%. And you just need to look at it. And this is equated normally over 25 years. Now, if at year 5, and this is what a lot of people do, so when they go and get the Help to Buy mortgage, they actually get a 5-year fixed. Then on year 5, before you go into year 6 and you start being charged interest, you remortgage everything, and then all of it is lumped in a mortgage rather than you paying a mortgage and paying this interest on top. So that's one tip. The next thing I'd like to say is, yes, you only have to pay the interest. You're not expected to pay anything off during those 5 years, but you could choose to pay all or part of it off at any time. So a lot of people stretch it and they do the 5-year fixed before the year 6 jumps in. But if you know you're going to be getting a bonus or coming into some money, or you've put aside savings or whatever, then you can actually pay off part or some of it early. And that helps when you do the remortgage. You're remortgaging, obviously, the capital that you originally borrowed, but then not all of the equity loan as well, just some of it because you've paid some off. So that's a good tip. The other thing is, you do have to pay £1 per month as a management fee, and that has to be set up by direct debit. So just be aware that's something. I mean, it's a silly little thing that you have to do, but just be aware that's what it is. I did talk about the restrictions of the maximum property price. Now, when you're working out what the property price of your property is, it's called the market value. You basically need to find a surveyor that is registered with RICS, and that's the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So they need to value it, and also obviously the estate agent will give a value and you'll put in an offer, and that will be the sales price. Now, whatever is the highest of the survey and the sales price will be the market value in their eyes, and they will work out all the percentages of the equity loan and everything else based on that. Now, that is basically Help to Buy in a nutshell. Like, as I said, the scheme started in 2021, it's ending in 2023, but just be aware when I say ending in, and it's March 2023, I think it's the 31st of March 2023, but that doesn't mean that you can put in an offer on the property on the 30th of March. You need to have completed. Now, I'll just quickly run through just to remind you what exchange and complete means. Now, when you're buying a property and you put in an offer on the property and then you get the physical mortgage offer, and all the searches, so the solicitor does all the searches and checks out the property. What happens next is you then decide when you want to actually purchase the property for it to go to land registry, be in your name, and it become yours, right? So the first thing you do is what's called exchange. Now, there are 2 sets of the exact same contract, basically stating that the seller is selling the property to yourself, the buyer. And that's all there, and it says, you know, the name of the owner is changing from this person to yourself. That is exchange. You both get a set of contracts. It details the borders of the property, you know, where the garden is, which bit of land is yours, which bit isn't, how, you know, the whole of the property, what your borders are, what your boundaries are, and all details of the property. That's what is in the contract. Now, you sign the contract and they sign the contract, and then you swap it over, and then you sign the other copy and they sign the other copy. So both sets have got both signatures on. That is called exchange, and that's when the deposit is given. Now, after that, normally a week, it can exchange and complete on the same day, but normally a week, you then complete, which is when the rest of the money is given, you get the keys, you get to move in, and all of that good stuff. Now, what I'm saying is, the scheme ends the 31st of March. You have to have completed by that point. So that means you need to give yourself, I would say, at least 6 months before to put in the offer on the property, to start looking for the mortgage, to start the buying process, because it can take 3 to 6 months, sometimes more, to buy that property. So what I'm saying is just make sure you give yourself enough time. The likelihood is they'll bring in another scheme like the Help to Buy, just slightly different, but I haven't got a crystal ball, I can't guarantee anything. So I'm basically saying I think they will bring in a scheme, but I can't guarantee it. This is a very good scheme if you want to get on the property ladder and you like new builds. If you don't like new builds, obviously it's not for you. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. Thank you for all your support with subscribing for the channel and supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you could continue to subscribe and share if you come across anything you find interesting that you think someone else might find interesting, and put any comments in, and I will obviously reply to your comments and answer any questions that you have. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.